lecture becomes her. Chapter 19. Of everything Matthew could have said, nothing could have astonished Barnaby more. He and Luke exchanged glances, and it was clear that Luke was as astounded as he was by Matthew's words. His voice carefully neutral, Barnaby said, "Unfortunately, if someone is trying to kill me, you have the best motive." Matthew's eyes flashed. "Don't you think I know that?" He sent Barnaby a hard look. "If someone is trying to kill you, I don't appreciate being set up to take the blame for your murder." He threw out a hand and said passionately, "You may find it hard to believe, but the last thing I want is to inherit a title tainted by the suspicion that I murdered the previous holder to gain it." He glanced around at his brothers, and both Thomas and Simon nodded, their faces grim and set. Looking back at Barnaby, Matthew said quietly, "None of us do." Barnaby studied Matthew. The man sounded sincere, and his reaction was exactly what Barnaby would have expected of him. He would have felt the same. His eyes moved slowly over Thomas and Simon. The animosity between Thomas and Simon was well known, but both of them appeared to hold their eldest brother in high esteem, even if Simon couldn't resist poking at Matthew now and then. Would their love and affection for their brother drive them to murder for him? It seemed far-fetched to think so. Yet someone had indeed tried to avenge his death on 3 separate occasions, and the obvious motive was inheritance of the title. If not the title, then why? He wondered, puzzled, would someone want him dead? He and Luke exchanged glances once again. Luke spread his hands and shrugged. Matthew's protestation of innocence could be a ruse to gain Barnaby's confidence, but it didn't feel like it. Matthew's words rang true, but then his cousin could be a great actor. Barnaby sighed. He had a decision to make. Did he trust Matthew and his brothers, or didn't he? "Deciding to gamble and trust his own instincts," he said. "Someone did try to kill me yesterday. I heard the culprit say so, and cursed the fact that I survived the other 2 attempts on my life." "He spoke to you?" Matthew demanded excitedly. "Did you see him?" Barnaby shook his head. "No, I didn't see him. I only heard his voice." At Matthew's eager look, he said, "And no, I didn't recognize the voice. It sounded familiar, but I could not place it." "What do you remember?" Tom asked Salmon. Barnaby relayed the facts, including his memory of the cord stretched across the room. "Of course the cord was gone when I regained consciousness," he finished drily. "This Lauren fellow, Matthew Must, could he have been hired to kill you and been your attacker? He might have been pretending to have just found you." "If that was the case," Barnaby replied, "he could have finished the job while I was out cold." He smiled slightly. "Even when I came to, I was disoriented and would have been easy prey. If he wanted to, it wouldn't have taken much for Lauren to give me another whack or 2, making certain that I will never walk again." "What about the horseman that Lauren sped riding away?" Simon inquired, bending forward. "Could he identify him or the horse?" Again Barnaby shook his head. "No." Lauren admitted he paid the horseman little heed. All his attention was on me. He rode the back of his neck. He admitted that it was strange the horseman hadn't stopped, but beyond that he could add nothing. Barnaby grimaced. "Believe me, before I left the Birches, I questioned him closely, as did Miss Townsend. There was nothing about the horseman or his town that stood out for Lauren. So all we really know," Matthew said dispiritedly, "is that you have an enemy who has made 3 attempts on your life." "Unsuccessful attempts," Luke said quietly. His frown deepening, Tom asked, "But why would someone want you dead?" Barnaby shrugged. "If we eliminate you and your brothers, while you may find it hard to believe, I can't think of anyone I have offended or annoyed to such an extent that they would try to murder me." Interjecting a light note, Luke grinned and murmured, "I will confess me amiss that he has driven me often to think fondly of murdering him, but I assure you in this case I am innocent." There was a general laugh. but soon enough the conversation turned serious again. Matthew and his brothers peppered Barnabas with questions about the other attempts, and he answered them as truthfully and completely as he could. Eventually, interest returned to the sinking of the yacht, it being the most risky and elaborate of the accidents. He told them what he remembered, glossing over any references to smuggling and smugglers, and did some tricky dancing around his actual rescue from the channel. And when you woke at the Crown, you had no idea how you got there, or who brought you there? Tom questioned closely, his eyes fixed on Barnabas' face. Nope, Barnabas said cheerfully, noting Luke's drooping eyes and deciding that they had wasted enough time discussing the attempts on his life. He said, "And now, gentlemen, I think we should call it a night." He smiled. "I have been living with this for several weeks, but you have much to think over. Perhaps in the morning you will have come up with some ideas to unmask whoever is trying to kill me." The following morning, when the gentlemen met in the morning room, no one had any ideas to add from the previous night's discussion. Barnaby wasn't much interested anyway. The wedding was tomorrow morning, and his thoughts and energies were on his bride and his marriage. With the faithful lamb riding alert and eagle-eyed beside him, Barnaby rode over to the Birches that afternoon. Laughter and excitement filled the air at the old manor house, and the ladies were much too busy with the packing of Emily's things and some last-minute fittings to allow his bride more than a few minutes' private conversation with Barnaby. Taking his leave of Emily after a frustratingly short visit, Barnaby muttered, "At least this is the last time I have to say goodbye to you here. By this time tomorrow we shall be man and wife." Emily's heart thumped at that knowledge, and the teeniest quiver of uncertainty went through her when she looked up at his dark face and took in again that big, powerfully muscled body. This man could virtually own her by this time tomorrow, and he wasn't a man to be trifled with, or easily deceived or ignored like Geoffrey. The image of him as he had stood before her in the Goddard farmhouse, his face full of terrible resolve, the knife in his hand as he confronted Ansford, blazed through her mind. If she dared to define him, there would be consequences, possibly dangerous ones. "But I love him," she reminded herself, "and if he doesn't love me, he has affection for me. Surely he would never treat me cruelly." Sensing her fears, he kissed her fingertips and murmured, "Emily, I swear to you that I will be a good husband to you and never mistreat you." He grinned at her. "Although I am sure that you will madden me from time to time as I will you." Unable to resist the so beguiling grin, she smiled back at him. "Indeed, my lord, as far as the latter is concerned, I suspect you are absolutely correct." The wedding day dawned, sullen and gray, a storm hovering on the horizon. Despite the storm, which by mid-morning was snarling its fury overhead, the pews of the village church were packed with friends and family of the bride and groom. Looking impressive in every inch, the aristocrat in a plum-tailed coat, the lace frill of his shirt spilling across the dark material, and fawn satin knee breeches that hugged his muscular thighs, Barnaby's voice rang out emphatically as he repeated his vows. Emily's response was less forceful, but everyone agreed that with her silvery fair hair arranged in clusters of ringlets, embellished with small sprays of pink rosebuds, she made a lovely bride. Everyone, especially the ladies, agreed that her gown of rose and cream striped silk, lavishly trimmed with lace around the square neckline, and at the wrist of the long sleeves, was everything a bride could have wished for. Only the storm marred the perfection of the day. When a bolt of lightning struck nearby and lit up the inside of the church like 1,000 torches, just as Emily said, "I do." She tried not to think of the storm as an omen for her life with Barnaby. A wedding breakfast was planned at Windermere, and even the storm couldn't dampen the spirits and pleasure of the guests who followed the newlyweds back to the mansion. It was an electric group of people who gathered to celebrate the marriage of Lord Jocelyn to Emily Townsend. Electric the guests might be, but Barnaby preferred to think of them as a democratic group, where Mrs. Gilbert easily rubbed shoulders with Lord Broadford and his lady and the other leading landowners of the area. Jed Brown and Caleb Gates, both looking very spruce in their best jackets and boots, could be seen conversing with Matthew and Simon, and three of the Gilbert daughters were laughing as they clustered around Luke and Thomas. Flanked by Tina and Anne, Cornelia held court in one corner of the room, where one and all came to pay their respects and compliment her on her looks, and indeed she was in high fervor at seeing her dear Emily so successfully settled. Hugh, it was noted by several, was never far away from sparkling-eyed Anne. Geoffrey wandered from one group to the other, accepting as if it were his due the congratulations on Emily's adventurous marriage. The vicar and his wife drifted about the room, lingering to visit with Cornelia and later Mrs. Featherstone, who was there with her daughters, and as soon as the Gilbert girls had moved on, immediately set her sights on Luke and Thomas. Once everyone had enjoyed a dizzying array of food prepared by Mrs. Easton and toasted the newlyweds, except for members of both families, the guests trickled away and headed into the storm for their homes. Dusk was falling when the Townsend group finally braved the weather and departed for the bushes, leaving Emily alone with her husband and his relatives. Watching Cornelia and the rest of her family drive away in a lumbering Townsend family coach, Emily was aware of a feeling abandoned to strangers. Oh, to be sure, her very new husband wasn't a stranger to her, but there was much about him that she didn't know. Staring down at the wide gold band upon her finger, she realized with a start that from the moment she had first set eyes on Barnaby that night at the inn, that not even 2 months had passed, and now she was married to him, she thought breathlessly, their lives forever entwined as their bodies would be tonight. Rather than going away for a few days to begin their life together, Emily and Barnaby had chosen to remain at Windermere, and originally Matthew and his brothers had planned to depart from Monk's Abbey after the wedding breakfast, but the storm made that impracticable. Conscious that this was Barnaby and Emily's wedding night, Matthew, Thomas, and Simon made plans to be gone for the evening. They were, Matthew explained, braving the storm and riding into the village to sample the entertainment to be found at the Ram's Head. Luke mentioned tactfully that he was looking forward to a quiet dinner and evening in his rooms. With the guests all departed, Emily bid the gentlemen good evening, and walked to the bottom of the graceful, swooping double staircase, intended to escape to her rooms. At the base of the left staircase she stopped, realizing that she had no idea where her rooms were. Peckham startled her when he suddenly appeared by her side. Bowing low, he murmured, "I don't believe that you have had a chance to inspect your suite yet. It is in a different wing than the rooms you stayed in previously. If you wish, my lady, I can show you to them." Emily nodded and said, "I would appreciate that." He coughed delicately. "Since you didn't bring a maid with you, I've taken it upon myself to select someone from the staff." He looked unhappy. "Under normal circumstances, my lady, I would never allow such a young and untrained female to stay with you. But unless she displeases you, Kate, who waited on you previously here at Windmill, will act as your personal maid. She has unpacked your things that arrived from the Birches this morning, and will assist you in any way you desire. If you have the slightest complaint, you must notify me at once, and I shall immediately rectify the problem." Emily might have been more impressed by his words if she hadn't gotten the distant idea that he would enjoy rectifying the problem far too much, and she vowed that the butler would never hear a complaint from her about any of the staff. As they walked up the staircase toward the upper floors, Peckham said, "There was no time to redo your rooms prior to the wedding. I'm sure that you will find them more than satisfactory." Everything at Windmere is of the highest quality. A sly glance drifted her way, and he added, "Of course you will no doubt be changing things to suit yourself." Not certain if she had been insulted or not, Emily held her tongue, but she decided that she didn't much care for Barnaby's butler. Continuing on their way, she listened with an interesting expression on her face as he pointed out first one and then another grand room, and found herself longing for Walker's amiable presence and a comfortable familiarity of the Birches. Keeping pace with Peckham's measured tread through the mandarin candlelit hallways, Emily was certain that left to her own devices she would have surely lost her way. She was right. When he eventually stopped and swung wide a pair of double doors and urged her to enter, she was thoroughly disoriented, and she had the suspicion that he had deliberately taken her on a circumambulating route. The candles had all been lit earlier, and having meticulously shown her around the sumptuous appointed suite, consisting of sitting room, bedroom, and dressing room, all decorated in shades of pure moss and rose, Peckham departed. After Peckham left, Emily looked around the sitting room, deciding that the butler had been right about one thing. Everything at Windmere was of the highest quality. A lovely rosewood desk and a chair covered in a rose and ivory tapestry sat invitingly beneath one of the several long windows adorned with moss silk drapes. A thick wooden rug, richly woven in shades of amber, pink, and pearl, lay upon the floor. Satinwood tables and chairs of hoisted moss and gold-striped velvet, and a pair of settees were scattered tastefully about the room. Tall cabinets of fine marquetry flanked the doors that led to her bedroom. A fireplace with an ancient and tragically carved oak mantel dominated the far wall, and with the storm outside, Emily was glad of the yellow and orange flames dancing on the hearth. Sitting down on one of the settees, Emily forced herself to relax. Who would have known that getting married was so exhausting? She thought, kicking off her silk slippers and absently pulling the flowers from her hair and dropping them beside her on the settee. She looked around the room again. This was now her suite. She wasn't here as a guest. She lived here in this huge, enormous mansion, and she couldn't help thinking of the shabby charm of her former home and everyone that she had left behind. She would never again be plain Emily Townsend of the Birches, she realized with a pang. She was now Lady Jocelyn, mistress of Windmere and responsible for overseeing the army of servants, many whose names she didn't even know, and for making certain that Windmere remained in immaculate condition. Her lips drooped, a wave of loneliness swept over her as she pictured Anne and Cornelia returning home to the confidence of the familiar, where dear, smiling Walker would be greeting them and Mrs. Spaulding would be cooking something delicious for the evening in the big old kitchen at the Birches. Disgusted with herself, she shook herself and stood up. Good heavens, she was married to a worldly, exciting man, and here she was moping about, as if she had been cast up helpless on some nameless shore. Barnaby's dark, intent face leaped to her mind, and thinking of the coming night, her whole body responded in a way that excited and flustered her. Her breast tingled, heat flooded her lower body, and her pulse beat madly at the thought of what would come. Seeking escape from the lurid and undefinably arousing images in her brain, she hurried out of the sitting room and into the bedchamber, and catching sight of the moss and gold damask bed hangings that draped the massive bed, she jerked her gaze away. Picturing Barnaby Necklin in that big bed said he wasn't helping calm her galloping imagination, and almost desperately she sought distraction. Hearing sounds of movement in the dressing room, Emily peeked around the doorway. Kate, the young maid she met during her previous stay, was smiling and humming to her son as she placed a pitcher of warm water upon the mahogany and marble washstand in the corner of the spacious room. Since Kate had been there when Peckham had shown her the rooms, Emily assumed the maid had entered via the seventh staircase. Catching sight of Emily out of the corner of her eye, Kate squeaked and jumped. Recognizing her mistress, she flushed and hastily curtsied. "Oh, my lady, I didn't see you there." Smiling, Emily entered the room. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to startle you." Emily wasn't certain how she would deal with a lady's maid all her own, but she discovered that Kate was a gem. Not only was the young maid cheerful and friendly, she was in direct contrast to Peckham's irritating polite behavior. While she'd been getting married and entertaining guests today, the trunks from the Birches had arrived, and Kate had unpacked and put everything away. Like a puppy accepting praise, Kate fairly quivered with pleasure as Emily complimented her on a task well done. After asking Kate to arrange her bath, Emily wandered back into the bedroom, her gaze lingering on a tall carved oak door on the far wall that Peckham had pointed out led to the Viscount's rooms. She swallowed. Any time he wished, Barnaby could enter her room and take her into his arms and kiss her, and warmth rushed through her, and she hastened into the sitting room, embarrassed by her fixation on Barnaby's kisses and other things. Seating herself on one of the rose damask cover settees, she glanced around the area again, thinking that 4 of her bedrooms at the Birches would have fit in the sitting room, with space left over. Her eyes dropped down to the ring on her finger. She was married to Barnaby, and tonight, when he took her into his arms, she trembled, knowing that tonight there would be no barriers between them, and that when he kissed her and touched her, there would be no interruptions, no stopping him from taking what was now, by law, his. Her heart thumped, and she didn't know whether she was excited or afraid. She bit her lip. She didn't fear Barnaby, so she must be excited, she decided, remembering other times and all those incredible sensations he aroused within her. Filled with anticipation and not much caring whether it was immodest or not, Emily thought the time would drag until she saw Barnaby again. She was astonished to discover that by the time she had bathed and changed into a simple blue gown, and Kate had brushed her hair until it cascaded in near silver curls down her back, that the hour was just a few minutes shy of 8 o'clock. She was halfway across the candlelit room when a door connecting her rooms with Barnaby's opened, and Barnaby sauntered into the room. At the sight of him, looking so big and virile, her heart gave that funny little thump she was beginning to expect whenever she saw him. Like her, he had changed in this evening, wearing far less formal clothes. His cravat was smaller, and there was no lace for his neck. His dark blue coat and pale gray breeches, though expensive and expertly tailored, were of less costly materials. Eschewing the usual quake, Barnaby had let his heavy black hair loose, and it fell in luxurious waves to his shoulders. With all that black silk hair framing his face, it brought attention to the broad cheekbones and intensified the darkness of his complexion, making his Indian ancestry very apparent. Spying Emily, Barnaby stopped as if hit with a sledgehammer, and any thought of the quiet, polite dinner he ordered, served in her sitting room, followed by a gentle seduction, vanished. His eyes narrowed and fastened on her half-parted, rosy mouth. The blood roared in his head as the memory of those tampering lips crushed under his swept through him, to his damnation. He was instantly hard and ready to rip those clothes from her and take what was his. He struggled against his most basic instincts, fighting back the urge to toss her on the bed, and discover all the charms he knew lay between that charming blue gown. Emily took a half step back with the expression on his face. Even as her body responded to the hungry desire, she saw there, her nipples peak against the thin silk of her gown. Her legs went weak in the anticipation of his touch, of his mouth on hers, still further retreat. Barnaby's gaze dropped to her nipples, pushing impudently against the blue fabric. He muttered something between a curse and a benediction, and those two long strides was before her, dragging her to his arms. For a second their eyes met, the fierce hunger blazing in his meeting, the uncertain eagerness of hers, and then, with his hands tightly gripping her upper arms and holding her against him, his mouth came down hard and demanding on hers. That first kiss was not gentle. He couldn't control himself, his lips and tongues plundering at will. But as the seconds passed, despite every urge to the contrary, he was able to regain some sanity. This was Emily, his wife, his bride, breathing as if he run a race. He slowly gentled his touch, his tongue seeking and meeting hers, whining and tasting, luring her deeper into the silence. His mouth seducing hers, his hands left her arms and slipped to her hips, draping her snugly against the rampart rod between his thighs. Emily's arms clasped his neck, and she revealed the force of his kiss, and the feel of that muscled body pressing against hers. Ardently she returned his kiss, shivering with delight, when his big hands gripped her hips and brought her to that wicked lift of flesh that told of his surroundings. Kisses soon wanting enough in vain, Barnabas swept her up into his arms and stumbled to the bed. His mouth never leaving hers, he followed her down onto the bed, needing desire dictating his every move. Together they sprawled there, their mouths locked together, Barnabas' body half covering hers, one thigh locked to her. As driven as he, Emily kissed him back, passionately gasping with thigh, insisting against that part of her lower body that burned and ached for his touch. Her hands closed his shoulders as she twisted beneath him, her legs turned around that intruding thigh, holding him there, all sensation seemed center. His hand was restless. He shoved the material low and curving her, bearing her breast in those hard, masculine fingers caught, creased all that warm flesh he had laid bare. Trilling, nippling kisses along her jaw, down her thumb across her chest. His lips traveled to her breast and closed hungrily around her neck. The touch of his mouth, the feel of his teeth, and the level of his tongue crossed those sensitive buds, sent a flash of heat, staring through Emily as she arched up, offering her all that he would take. She was fire and saddened beneath them, with a small part of his brain not clouded by desire, bounded by force of control, the clawing hunger that demanded the joining of their bodies, trembling on a knife edge between sanity and permitted instant. He stood between her hands, slapping her swollen man against the solid leather junction of her thighs. Pleasure interrupted him when her arms tightened around him, hips rolled up to him. Struggling not to give in to the violent need to bury himself deep within, he tore his lips from her face. Beset by sensations and emotions that destroyed coherent thought, Emily cried out when that sweet, sucking mouth left her. Dazzlingly she stared up at the dark, fierce face above her, her eyes smoking and mysterious in the flickering light of the candles, her mouth rose and swollen from his kisses, and her cheeks flushed with desire. Barnabas had never seen anything lovelier, and she deserved better. He thought angrily than a beautiful maiden with a verdant boar. Yet when he started to lever his body away from hers, Emily's arms tightened and she breathed. "No, don't leave me this way. I need you." Her words inflamed him, but he threw off the powerful urge to sink back and seek his own pleasure. Forcing a smile that was as tender as it was strained, he muttered, "Emily, love, if you don't let me put some space between myself and your tempting self, I will not be able to control my basic instincts." He ran a caressing finger across her. "When you are in my arms, I lose my head and all I can think of is possessing you," he swallowed. "Your first time should be gentle." Her body on fire, arc and burning for him, she didn't give a damn about gentleness. Wanted him so badly she was concerned she died if he didn't end this delicious agony soon. She said, "Perhaps I don't want gentle right now. Perhaps I just want you to do with me as you will." Barnabas held on the edge and let his eyes drop to her naked face. He lost the battle. Brushing his lips across hers, his hands fastened on her gown. "If that is your wish, Madam Wife," he said huskily against her ear, "never let it be said that I disobeyed, and the first thing we need to do is get rid of these clothes." He proved exceedingly evident at stripping her out of her gown. It took him only a few seconds longer to rid himself of his own clothes. In the dancing candlelight, they regarded each other. Barnabas big and dark and muscular, Emily pale as alabaster, and despite her slimness, seductively curved, both were memories of what they saw, and looked like a fire stroke anew. The flame between them flared higher. They met as one, lips and tongues desperately seeking, limbs entwining, bodies and tingling. Ignoring promptness to the contrary, Barnabas lingered over the enchanting length of her, softened again the honey of her breast. his fingers drifting over the yielding form before him, as much to please her as himself. He managed to bring back his own design and learn the curves and hollows of her body. Those big warm hands wandered down her back to her buttock, squeezing the front cheeks before slipping her up to the front. Each new caress heightened to the melting dampness between her thighs as she moved restlessly against his touch. Wanting, he overpowered her. His taste upon her tongue, his scent in her nostrils, and his skin warm and rough under her drifting hands. His mouth sought hers again. The blunt demands of his skin heightened the pressure building within him. And when his fingers found her and parted the damp flesh between her thighs, Emily twisted and shocked to life. His touch was thrown gently, persistently he tensed and pulled out the frame. Legs exploring before slipping one of the two fingers into her. She gasped at the new sensation, each thrust of those invading fingers sending waves of urgent yearning spiraling through her body. Dizzy, helpless under the onslaught of a simple, basic clamoring of her body. Fevered and wild, she bit his face, her fingers clawing at his back. Please, you want to insist on. Her arms tightened around